Welcome back to the Whatnots Reactor Core number 115. We have our big spoiler cast for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 right here, right now. We're excited. It's been a long time coming. It feels like we've had like a whole decade of the Guardians. But yeah, we're excited to get to that indeed.
We nearly have. First movie came out August 2014, so nearly 9 years in the making. 6 of those years spent waiting for Volume 3.
For sure. My name is Kyle Springer. I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how are you?
Thank you for asking about me with great sympathy. We know that this is my very favorite film franchise, Guardians 2 specifically, perhaps my favorite film of my adult life. So this was a monumental day for me and my best friend Jack. We had a whole day planned around going to see this. Very ceremonial.
Yeah, you took the day off of work. You went out to eat afterwards. You did a whole thing.
Before and afterwards, we planned everything like very specifically.
Good. That's so much fun. Mine was not as eventful as that, but I went as soon as I could. The opening night, Thursday evening, 7:30, and it was a pretty full theater, except the first 2 rows, which is like too close up to. I mean, we have those like big recliners, hates and stuff like that recline and heat up and do all that stuff. But even still, it's just like you can lean back, but it's still almost like too big. To sit there. But I went as soon as I could. I had a blast. So I think what we will do is kind of talk about our spoiler-free thoughts on the movie, stuff like that. And then we will have a clear distinction when spoilers will be happening, which will be right after our little housekeeping break. So yeah, Melissa, let's start with you. You already said that Guardians is your favorite franchise of the MCU. The second one being just like a monumental film in your life. How did this third one wrap things up?
This movie really surprised me. This did not go the way I thought it was going to go. It definitely feels like a finale. There's something just seeped into like the pacing of it. The way it's lit, the color temperature of the thing that tells you this is the final one. This is the last chapter. So it's tonally very different. Not very different, but there is a noticeable difference between these and the other two. It's not quite as fun, but I think that is what we were expecting going in. That part didn't surprise me. I knew I was going to cry a lot, and I did cry a lot, but it was not an emotional experience in the way that I was expecting it to be an emotional experience. It still was, just different.
Interesting.
There's stuff that this movie pulled off that really astounded me.
Okay. I don't know. So you use the word not as fun, but I think I want to preface that with it's still really fun. I loved this movie, but I think you're right. There is this sense of like everything has come full circle. We're here at the end. This is a finale. This is the grand send-off, which has more of a somber feel to it. There's tons of emotional moments. I definitely teared up by the end of this. My partner was crying from the very first scene to the end, like nonstop. Just like there's so much stuff happening that is emotional.
There's a lot
all the time. And I loved it. I had a blast with this. I think this is up there as one of the better Marvel films, period. I know going into this, I was seeing some people on Twitter being like, this is the best Marvel film we've gotten since Endgame. And like I said, it's one of the best ones that we've gotten.
Yes, period. Absolutely.
And I think this I mean, we've already known that Guardians were good movies, but I think this solidifies the trilogy as maybe one
Yes.
of, if not the best trilogy in the MCU.
In
As
anything. It's so consistent and yeah, just really gives you everything you need right there at the end. It carries through on things that you could see coming.
Yep.
Like the thing that made me cry the hardest is like the most obvious thing that the final movie in this trilogy would do. But another thing was something that quietly has been there the whole time that you never think of. Oh, right. That should happen. That should be how this story wraps up. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the best trilogies in the MCU. I know for me personally, I'm not as high on the second Guardians one. I like the first one better. But yeah, this is so good. Go watch it if you have not yet.
Yes.
Go watch it, because it was a blast. I think top level like plot beat stuff, there's really kind of only two plot lines going on in this. It's Rocket's story and his back story, and then there is the story of Peter kind of coming to terms with the loss of Gamora.
Yes.
And what that means for him going forward, what that means for the team, and so on and so forth. There, and I will say we do get a bit of a look into the future of what is happening in the cosmic side of Marvel, at least in terms of the Guardians themselves. Because even though this trilogy is done, James Gunn is kind of done with the Guardians. I don't know if that necessarily means that like the Guardians of the Galaxy are done.
No,
that's all I will say on that.
Yeah, you can very easily imagine seeing most of these characters again in a Secret Wars. Like, I feel like a lot of characters are being shelved until Secret Wars.
Yeah. When they all come back and they do the on your left again.
Yeah.
Right.
Still on your left.
Yeah, man, I had a blast with this. There are two post-credit scenes if you are interested in that. I didn't feel like they were like mind-blowing, like, oh my god, this means this thing and blah blah blah. But they are good. They're fun to see nonetheless. Some good Easter eggs in those ones. Do you have any other kind of stuff that you want to add to like plot that might be a little bit relevant for spoiler-free stuff going in?
We do go meet the High Evolutionary, who everybody has seen in trailers, who is this genetic scientist with this real god complex who made Rocket, made other modified animals like Rocket. And after Rocket gets hurt, they have to go confront him and his whole organization to get something to help heal Rocket.
Yeah. Man, I don't know if I really have much else to say. That's
right. It's tricky. It's tricky to know what to say. Yeah, like I walked into this knowing I knew a single song that was going to be on the soundtrack. I had heard one out of the like 17 songs that's in this movie, and that was the one thing I knew. I had one fact. So I walked in knowing very little.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with this, is that James Gunn did such a tight-knit job with all of these movies that it doesn't really feel like this movie has a lot to do in terms of plot. It's not wrapping up 50 different things.
Yeah.
There's only a couple things, and it fits so well together I think by the end of this, it is a fitting send-off to the Guardians. And like I said, I teared up by the end. There was not like a specific thing that made me cry, but it was just like all of the things happening, just like
Yeah.
slowly like bringing me to all of these emotions, and just like, oh, I love it. It was good. I had a blast. So there you go. There you go. Well, I say we take a quick break for housekeeping, and then when we come back, we will dive into spoilers. So we will be right back. Here at the Whatnots, we make multiple different shows, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. If you enjoy our shows, patreon.com/thewhatnots is the best place to show your support. For just $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes, and at our $3 tier, a Patreon-exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club. You can even get a shout-out and thank you on most of our shows at the $5 tier. And if you're one of our patrons already, thank you so much. It means the world to us. You can find out more information on our website, thewhatnots.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in The Whatnots, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch for video versions of the shows, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something else, head over to thewhatnots.com/store to pick up some merch today. All right, we are back. Some more real quick housekeeping. First of all, thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you. It means a ton. Over on our Patreon exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club, we are covering Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. We watched the pilot of that and had a blast. Lots of Marvel stuff coming from us here at the Whatnots recently, because over on the review show, we are about to talk about the spectacular Spider-Man cartoon that is available on Disney Plus, all 26 episodes of that. So yeah, between that and Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur and Guardians 3, we got lots of Marvel stuff to talk about. But right here on the Reactor Core, we are continuing our coverage of Yellow Jackets Season 2. Melissa, I think tomorrow we are recording our podcast on episodes 5 and 6. So look out for all of that stuff. But yeah, covering The Good Place over on the review show, over on the Captain's Log. We got to, I had a whole Duolingo debacle thing happening over there. We got to react to the Dune 2 trailer. Got to talk a little bit about this Mountain Dew summer freeze. All sorts of good stuff.
You have more?
I
got
bought
more
a whole
cans
12
of it?
pack.
Wow.
I have a whole 12 pack, which I have been slowly working my way through. They nailed it, the bomb pop flavor. So go get you some. But yeah, that's about it for housekeeping, because I want to get into more Guardians stuff. So with that, let's get into spoilers. Bam. Okay. Melissa, how do we want to do this? So we used to do these longer, meatier spoiler casts where we would kind of do some of the broader brushstrokes of what the plot was and use that as a launching pad. But then I think we've gotten into the idea of like, what if we keep them a little bit shorter and just kind of dive into it, talk about what we need to / want to. But I know this is also Guardians 3. I feel like this sits like somewhere in between. Like we don't know what this is.
We want to talk about this in, I don't know if I want to go through it chronologically.
Sure.
Not that I don't like, the opening is powerful. The opening is effective, but I kind of want to go from the back first almost, because the most astounding thing about this movie to me is that nobody dies. Everybody was going into this movie expecting at least somebody to die. There were so many theories about like, well, Kraglin's gone because if James Gunn isn't going to be here anymore, I imagine Sean Gunn isn't going to be here anymore.
Right. Yeah.
These are the actors who don't want to keep being covered in paint and extensive makeup effects again in their career. There were all these theories about who's going to die. And the fact that everybody comes out of this alive is a miracle.
there was a picture going around of what's her name, Karen Gillan, who plays Nebula, who was like, so I was on set and forgot that I had scheduled couples counseling on the same day, and so it's like a Zoom call picture of her in like her in her Nebula makeup on her like couples counseling thing. She's like, I forgot. But yeah, you just reminded me with all the makeup stuff of that. But yeah, you're right. Like I think I went into this expecting this not only to be a wrap up of the franchise, but just kind of like it's kind of a dice roll for who dies.
Yes.
And they all lived.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And like for like the last year and a half or something, ever since that little quote came out where James Gunn said, "This is the last time you will ever see this incarnation of the Guardians," we've all thought somebody will die. No, like it's just people choosing to go their own way or retire, or Nebula's like, I'm going to be mayor of nowhere. I'm in charge of this place now. I want a home.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great way to move on from characters, as well as give these characters more growth. And because I think once the scene at the end that stood out to me was when they're basically like, yeah, like I've explored stuff because this guy told me to. I've explored stuff because you guys have told me to, and Mantis is the one saying that, and she's just like, I kind of just want to go explore things because I want to.
Yes,
and I think that was great for her, and they each have their reasons for either staying with the team, leading the next incarnation of the team, being around the team but not necessarily in it, or all sorts of stuff, which I thought was fantastic. That was like, I think it was by that part that I was like starting to tear up. I was like, I don't believe so you with all of them. I love this.
You come to this right. You come to this slightly misty-eyed, where I was like full physically sobbing.
Yeah. No, like I think for me, so on the Captain's Log, one of our other podcasts, you asked me what I was doing to prepare for Guardians 3.
Yeah.
To which my answer was basically nothing. Like I just didn't think of it. Like I didn't realize it was coming so soon, and here it is. But I know you also like rewatched the other movies they were in, stuff like that. And I mentioned to my partner after we watched it, I was like, yeah, I think if I had rewatched those movies and was more immediately in that story, I feel like I would have cried so much more than I did. But yeah, it was just like, I was so happy for everyone, but sad for everyone. Yeah. And it was just so good. I loved it.
Yeah, the whole thing is so sincere. Like there's a lot of thought put into where every character ends up, why all of them are going the way that they're going. It feels like there's a real sense of continuity to it, even though it's stuff you've never thought about. How Mantis grew up as essentially a pet of Ego, and then she was immediately adopted into the Guardians, who love her very much, but she never has been independent, and she wants to experience that. Like she really wants to figure herself out outside of the context of people who are immediately like feeding into her emotional reactions to things, you know, as an empath. It makes absolute sense that she's like, I need to go off by myself for a little while.
Yeah.
Or the fact that Peter's like, she encourages Peter, don't you have family left on Earth? Is there nobody left there back there for you? And you realize the grandpa who we saw in the first movie and we see in the second movie, like real you briefly, never think about how with that appearance in the second movie when Ego's like weird plants are tearing up that Dairy Queen back in Missouri, you think, oh, is there going to be a third beat to this guy? Are we going to see the grandpa in the third one? Is Peter going to go back to the grandpa? Again, Peter's not even sure if he's still alive, and we, the audience, have not really thought about it that much either. I liked what a surprise that was, and that at the end of the day, Peter's like, I have been running from this trauma that happened to me when I was a kid, when my mother died right in front of me, and I wouldn't hold her hand, and my grandpa pushed me out of the room, and then I was immediately abducted by aliens.
A traumatic
like,
event,
I need to
be sure, right?
Right.
But
he's like, I need to go back. I need to confront that. You're right. I need that closure. I need this part of my story cleared before I really think about other things.
I think what's interesting about that too is he also misremembers what happens with that.
Yes.
Like he has this idea of it in his mind that his grandfather was like pushing him out and yelling at him and being mean. Whereas we know that was not actually the case. He was more concerned, like, wait, come back.
Yes.
Like he did want to give his mom some space, but to just like have the kid go out like running and crying and then immediately be abducted by aliens, right? Is just, this whole thing is traumatic. I'm kind of surprised that he did not, like, I think it would have been a funny scene at the end there when he returns home to go see his granddad and also has Mantis there and is like, this is my sister. right just like how strange that could have been and that whole stuff. But I'm glad that Mantis went out on her own. They do mention that she is his sister like two or three times in this movie, and if you haven't seen the holiday special, you might be a little confused. I'm just like, wait, what? You can still do the math without having seen it, but it's not like laid out explicitly, unless you've seen the holiday special. But yeah, I think Peter going back to Earth to then have that reunion is really interesting. And then the like end credits saying that we get with that, where they're just having like a normal, like boring ass conversation while eating cereal and reading the morning paper. It's great.
He's eating peanut butter flavored Magic Spoon. Like, what a specific modern cereal for him to be eating.
Right? Not like, let me go back to the like cereal of the 80s that I remember.
The Cheerios, I remember. No, what new cereals do you guys have?
Oh, they're magic.
Spoon.
Like, I can see him being like, are they really magic? What?
Now, I met a wizard guy once. He turned his head around a bunch of times and told us we had a 1 in 14 million chance to save the universe. Can the cereal do that?
I mean, that's why he would believe it. He's like, I know there are wizards on Earth.
Like, Doctor Strange approved. 4 out of 5 Doctor Stranges approve Magic Spoon as part of a healthy breakfast.
Exactly.
Another thing that really affected me about that storyline is one of the things that has made Guardians my favorite for 9 years now. Missouri, baby. It's, as somebody who's like lived in St. Louis my entire life, I have no plans on leaving. I'm not going to the other edge of the galaxy. Like, to see that come full circle, where that is a good, happy ending for somebody, that they just go to St. Charles, Missouri. Yep. Like, it really, really touched me. Like, that is, especially to see it, like his grandpa sitting there reading the St. Charles Post or whatever, which I don't know if that's a real newspaper, but St. Charles is a real town outside of St. Louis. That's where Jack and I both went to college. I drive through that town all the time. Yes. And just to know that he was there, like in a place so close and so real and so important to my life experience, like, really got to me. And we spent the day, so like Jack and I went and got lunch. I made a playlist. We drove around. We talked about what we wanted from the movie. We went to see the movie. We went out to dinner afterwards. We were driving around through the little suburban town where we know James Gunn grew up. We've read in like interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and we're looking at all these beautiful houses and the beautiful green trees. And to see the movie celebrate the thing I was just doing 3 hours earlier, just
That's awesome.
enjoying living in Missouri. I can't tell you what that did for me. No other film has brought this to me the way Guardians has brought this to me.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, I don't think the Post is their paper. I think it's the Herald or something like that. But I did like the Easter egg on the paper too. That was like alien abduction. Kevin Bacon tells all, which was great. So, good stuff with that. It did at the end say Star-Lord will return.
The legendary Star-Lord will return.
Again, kind of, we know probably going to be in like Secret Wars or some Avengers movie. Yeah. Maybe he'll join up with the Avengers and be on their team for a bit. Who knows? But yeah, good stuff with that. I think just to kind of round off this conversation about like where everyone ends up. I think Drax coming full circle to be a father is not like literally a father, but finding out that he's actually great with kids and kids love him. And like, he's basically going to run the daycare on Nowhere. Like he is now the like de facto dad of Nowhere.
That's, again, something that has been quietly like a major through line of his character. They don't mention, like it's a bigger part in the first movie because that's why he wants revenge on Ronan, because he killed his wife and daughter. But the daughter comes up again in the second movie. Like it's something that's always been there, but it hasn't been the focus really. So when you see him interact with all those kids, you're like, oh, right. This is exactly what this guy used to do. He's great at this. He just has had no opportunities since then to show us that he's great at this. And it's so smart that out of all of the characters around him, that it's Nebula, the one who grew up with Thanos, that looks at him and says like she knows what a bad dad is, that she's the one who looks at him and says, you were born to be a dad. I know that. I have had the experience to know what a good dad is, and you are that.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. That's so effective. And this is what I was talking about, that like it's been set up for so long. Like dancing is such a like a literal and metaphorical theme in the Guardians, and Drax never dances. That's what attracted him to his wife, that the most rhythmic music in the universe could be playing and she would not move a muscle. It is almost as if she was dead. Like, that's what attracted him to her. You could see this coming. Like, I knew the movie was going to end with dancing, and I knew they were going to get Drax to dance, of course. But still, just that catharsis of when it actually hits, when he does start dancing, so predictable. But, like, that is what made me, like, physically break down into sobs. Literal sobs.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. Yeah, I liked that. I was with him. They almost do a fake out where you think that's like, oh, he's gonna have some romantic interest in Mantis, and maybe they'll go off to get together or something. But it seems like where they flirted with that a little bit in the second movie, they kind of cooled on it in this one. There's still some like them. Not flirting is not necessarily the right
those two have
word.
Always had a bond, and I think the second movie is about how it isn't that. Like, they lay out the reasons why it would not be that. They've got some other kind of bond that has always been really strong through like the times they've had together, through Guardians 2 and the holiday special, and they're together in Infinity War the whole time. The one little disappointing thing is that she leaves before he starts dancing. But maybe in her heart, she can feel the dance energy. Right. And she walks away with her obelisk squad. So funny. I'd love to see Mantis Queen of the Beasts. That's very great.
But yeah, like that, I think in my head would have been a believable thing if you had told me that a number of years ago, to be like, oh yeah, and they'll end up together. I'd been like, okay, yeah, sure. But yeah, I think Nebula kind of wanting to settle down and kind of stay away from adventure and just like I just want to be here in nowhere and take care of nowhere. All of the refugees that we've brought on, all of the animals, all of the kids, all of the people, like just someone needs to be here for them. And I think she started to recognize that she can do that as part of a healing process. I think this also speaks directly to her time with Thanos, who not only mistreated her and abused her, but then also at the end of the day, like wiped out half of of all life. And so for her to then nurture that in a way here and make sure that it springs back up is, I think, again, just her story coming full circle. Which I loved. Rocket, with his story, we'll get into more of his backstory in a bit here, but I think at the end of the day, when they're just like, you're the leader of the Guardians now, and they each do hit their sign to be like, yes, you're the one.
The Ravager salute.
I vote for Rocket. That was a hugely emotional beat for me, and yeah, I think that it works out perfectly that because that kind of the things that we get to find out from his backstory is that is what he wants to do. He wants to be on a spaceship, go adventure, and just ride around with his friends, and he's kind of already gotten to do that, but he's now picked up new friends along the way, and so he gets to continue doing that with like the next generation, which I just think is so special, for him there. I love that.
I do love that that's how it ends, that Peter's like, I gotta go back home, there's stuff I emotionally need to do there. I need to reconnect with the last bits of my Earth Terran family back there. Rocket, this is yours. This has kind of always been yours. Everybody agrees. Yes.
It's interesting to see, because also in the scene where Rocket is dying and there is that like the afterlife step into the light kind of scene, there is a strange line in there that I don't know what it means exactly, but it's that idea of like, there are the hands that have been controlling you, and then there are the hands that have been controlling the hands, and we don't know what that means. We don't know if that's gonna be a big Easter egg down the road, if there's like if Kang has been the one influencing everything, or if it's the like living tribunal, if it's the Beyonder, if it's something else, who knows. But I think this is Rocket's way of trying to be those hands, whether he knows it or not. Like, he gets to be the one that influences the next generation, who he knows will then like go on to be. So he is the hands behind the hit, right?
That is such a lovely line about the hands that guide the hands, because it can speak to actual comic book, like big cosmic beings, like a celestial or a one above all or something like that. But it can just speak to the generic concept of fate, of destiny, of purpose, of you went through bad things to get something good out of it at the end, and you need to live to go experience that good thing.
Yep. Indeed. I liked his story. That was fantastic. And then I think last but not least, Groot, who spoke at the end. He spoke. He said, I love you guys.
I love you guys, which is, I love it because it's so true to the character, and also feels like a line that I'm going to hear in 2 weeks in Fast X. Like,
right. I love you guys. holds up a
Right.
Corona, right?
Right. What a great month. A great month. A great 2-week period.
What a great month for loving guys.
Right, for going to see emotional Vin Diesel movies.
Yeah.
Wild coincidence. Truly, the hands that guide the hands are directing the film calendar this summer. It didn't click with me in the theater, but I have seen videos since then that are saying it's like he is not speaking English. He is still saying, I am Groot or whatever. But now you have spent enough time with him that you understand him the same way all the other characters understand him.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch. I'm probably going to go see this again next weekend in St. Charles, the theater in St. Charles, Peter's hometown. And cool. I look forward to seeing that moment play out again.
That's awesome.
Now that I know that's the take on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to new rock stars in their video, because I know that they mentioned that one. And I think that's a great way to read that.
Yeah.
That scene is that, he's not actually speaking our language, but you now can understand him. You've had this emotional connection with him for so long that you finally understand him. Which is it. Yeah, I think that is great. And
we haven't talked about Gamora yet.
Yes,
absolutely. It is so sad what her and Peter went through, and this movie is a really interesting evolution or maybe de-evolution of what they were, because of course she dies. Now we have a version of her from several years in the past. They can't get back to where they left off in Infinity War, where they truly said, I love you to each other, where they really were an actual romantic couple and not just fun flirt action pals. And the conflict that Peter is trying to push her into, you did this once. You are capable of this. It can happen again. And she's like, sure. But like, that's not me. I'm not there. I'm not that person. Mm-hmm. And the realization that Mantis helps him have. Mantis is so, of course, she's an empath. She's so intuitive. But I like that she's extra intuitive when it comes to her brother. That she's like, you lost your mom at an early age. I think you've kind of used women to fill an emotional hole in your life. And having this woman that you loved also die has opened up an even bigger hole. And I don't think getting back with this other timeline version of her is going to work. Yes. But I like that as the movie goes on, there's something of what used to be there. Like this is Gamora from approximately the timeline. She starts to
recognize it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. From the first movie, they do get back to where they kind of were in the first movie. And I like when she says, I bet we were fun. I like that it ends on this sort of hopeful note of this. Who's to say this will never happen again? Maybe when the characters grow, deal with some past trauma, have different experiences, maybe when they come back together, this can happen again.
Yeah.
And I like that when she goes, you almost think at the end of the movie that she is going to choose to continue with the Guardians to just sort of start rebuilding the team that we once had, that she is going to stay there on Nowhere with them. And instead she goes back to the Ravagers. I think it's so smart to show that when she goes back to the Ravagers, they love her. She loves them. That is not just, this is a way for me to like kick ass and make money and, use all of my warrior skills I got from Thanos.
It's a family for her. Yeah.
Yes. That's also a family as much as the Guardians are. Like they're all hugging her. It's like so clear to everybody that is something to her now that's as important as the Guardians ever were to our original Gamora. I think that's something that has been repeated throughout this franchise, that the Guardians are our main family that we're following. But this is a world full of other family. Back in the first movie, you think about when they go into that prison, they go into the kiln, all those prisoners just like snuggle up together at night. Like there are bonds there. You think about the Ravagers, they also just snuggle up in a big pile at night. Like they go to all these other situations full of all these like ragtag, misfit groups. And there is love there also, separate of the main love we have going on within the Guardians. I I think that's really special that James Gunn has painted a picture of this world that doesn't just have this one group that is this outstanding example of love, but love is quietly like really pervasive throughout the rest of the universe.
Yeah. I have a question that deals kind of with Gamora stuff. How much do we know about James Gunn's influence or lack thereof of Gamora dying in Endgame and Infinity War? Because I feel like there is when Star Lord is kind of recapping all of that stuff when they're in that elevator. Right, like I feel like that's kind of James Gunn commenting on like, well, I wouldn't have done that, but I don't know how true that is.
I also saw that inferred, but I don't know what the actual story is.
Okay.
Of like how much influence he had on what happened in Infinity War, or if like the screenwriters, I think it was Marcus and McFeely who did that, and the Russo brothers and Kevin and the main creative team on Infinity War and Endgame, how much they did reach out to the other directors. If they talked to James Gunn or to Taika or whoever about like, we're going in this direction. How does that fit with your future plans for this character? Like, can we compromise on what all of our needs are? I have no idea how much is true, but I will say it has always impressed me that when we do see the Guardians in Infinity War, I think the Peter and Gamora relationship is something that is handled very well in that movie. I always appreciated that was one of the major emotional linchpins, was the romance between those two characters. And just the line where she asks him, like, if Thanos gets me, you have to kill me. I need you to swear. I need you to swear on your mother. Like, that's a line that really showed me these screenwriters did their homework on the Guardians. Like, that is one of the most important emotional cruxes of this story. And it always made me happy that they got that right.
Okay. So I asked that because I feel like I saw an ending in this movie that didn't happen. There was something that I felt would have been, well, and in hindsight, it is also a very obvious ending that I could see them trying to avoid just because it feels like low-hanging fruit here. We mentioned a lot of these characters coming full circle, right? There is a moment at the end of the film where Star-Lord has to jump out of the high evolutionary spaceship, and he like does some trick to propel him towards the ship he needs to go, but he gets blocked by all this debris. And he needs to be saved, just like Gamora needed to be saved in the first movie. And so I was kind of expecting this to be the moment that Gamora turned around and was like, I've now been with you for a little bit. I've seen what we had. Like, I think there's something here. Maybe not yet, but right. Like, you're worth saving, and this is worth investigating. And so that is kind of what I was expecting. I was like, that's actually kind of a nice touch for it to come full circle, for her to save him instead. But that's not what we got. I
think it was a nice use of Adam Warlock in that scene, though. You kind of forget. Right, he's around here. He's a super magical gold being, and he can do that.
So, yeah, I think that leads us to Adam Warlock in this, who I have to say, I kind of don't think the film really needed. Like, he was the one thing to me that felt extra. That, like, if they were to trim this down even further, I could see them cutting him out of this. I think the majority of the film still works without him. But I think he was a fun inclusion. I think he's not out of place by any means. I think he fits within the themes of the story, that he is this creation, right? We now know that the high evolutionary create, I forget the name of the golden people.
The Sovereign.
The Sovereign.
Love the Sovereign.
But yeah, that they were an experiment, and more so in an aesthetic experiment. He was just like, I think gold looks neat, right? Let me hit the gold button. More gold spray paint, please. Um, and yeah, that they are a result of that, and that Adam Warlock is also kind of a result of what we then learn is the high evolutionary trying to also kind of come up with species or something that looks to invention, looks to create, like, right, looks to think these unthunk thoughts is something along the lines of what he says at one point. And Adam Warlock doesn't really live up to all of that stuff. He's kind of a himbo, right? He's this mama's boy. He just likes this nice, like, furry space alien cat thing. I think that's
so
right?
funny.
He's just a sweet
blurb
boy,
or whatever his name is. Yeah.
He's just a sweet little boy, sweet little golden boy.
I think he's well utilized in. I love when he appears, when he first shows up in this movie and he's flying towards you. He's so far away, you don't even recognize him. Like, you don't know what is coming towards you. You think it's like a spaceship at first. I like that
asteroid,
couple seconds of ambiguity we get there. And he just tears up nowhere. That is an action scene, like, emotionally unlike stuff we've had in the series before, where he is hitting them right there at home when they've just gotten this home. They haven't had, like, a physical space outside of the ship to call home before, a place that they are building together. Like, he hits them right at home. He tears through all of them. Nobody can get to him because he's designed for this. He is built for this. Mm-hmm. It's really harsh. That scene, like,
it's interesting to me because, like, he is none of the Guardians can really do much damage to him.
Yeah,
but like you kind of mentioned, the threat of this scene is not to really any one person. I mean, he's there to get Rocket, right? But he's not. It's not like the opening of Infinity War, where Thanos is walking through the ship just killing people left and right? It's not that kind of threat. The threat is to nowhere, it seems. It's like, this is a home we built. Like, this is supposed to be a safe space. What
dare you?
Like, like, that seems to be the stuff. And then when Rocket does get hurt, it does have this extra level of just like, oh shit, like, we need to do something. Like, forget this fight. Like, let's just go do something else. We need to save him. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. But his character also kind of comes full circle as he's the one that then saves Star-Lord at the end there, and they do the, like, finger touch creation
of Adam.
Adam. But his name is Adam, right? And he, like, I think that is the moment that he finally gets that, like, hey, I don't have to be this killing machine. I can have a heart. I can care about things, which I think he always did. But he like, at least that's how I read him. Is like, he always, like, from him having, you said its name, the Blep or whatever.
I think it's Blurb.
I don't know. But, like, him attaching himself to that and like finding a connect. Like, I think this soft, gooey, emotional center, it has always been there, right? I guess you could say he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he has a heart of gold. You know what I mean?
What? Everybody does. That's something that really, like, clicks into me in this movie, especially that the Guardians, more than any other group of characters, like, in the MCU, are so vocal about, we love each other. Like, they don't put a lot of metaphor on it. I think that's really striking. Like,
that's because Drax wouldn't understand it. So.
Of course, yes. I had a poop the other day shaped like a fish. Even my butt can do a metaphor. No, but you think about, they're constant throughout this movie. Like, I think Nebula's like, why do you keep Drax around? He's just a liability. And Mantis says, he makes us laugh and he loves us. Like, of course, he's not a liability. Like, he's part of the family. Like, throughout this, more and more as the series goes on, like they say, I love you. They hug each other. They're together. They like so clearly are a family. They so clearly call each other like best friends. Like there, it's so clear in a way that it isn't for other bonds. I think about how like Steve and Bucky never say I love you, you know, the way like the Guardians do to each other. They've got their metaphors, their winks, there's how can I? You're taking all the stupid with you. And the Guardians have like moved past that. They're like, I love you guys. I don't need to dress it up. I can just say that. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not scared to be that vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, so what I was trying to get at with Adam Warlock,
Yes.
is that I think that stuff has always been like, I think the Sovereign is a people, a species that like that stuff has been not bred out of them, but like they've been told not to have that or made not to have that. And I think he has that in him. We do know that he was taken out of his cocoon a little prematurely. Maybe that's why.
Yes.
But it was always there under the surface, and he sees this team that, yeah, like you said, just without a filter, loves one another. And he's like, why can't I be like that?
Yeah.
And I think that is his moment when he sees Peter out there. He's like, I can do something about these, like about this. I can save him. I can heal him. I can do all of that stuff. And so, I think that's a great moment for him, that it worked out. Even if in the wild case that James Gunn was like, I was never gonna kill Gamora. How dare you? But I think he found a way to make it work. I think is effective. That is just as effective, if not more so, because then he gets to expand the team, right?
There's so much thematic density in this movie. Like there's so many echoes and parallels. Like everything seems just really well thought out. And that Adam is a character who is defying what he was built for, the same way almost all the other characters are. You know, Peter is a hero. He doesn't want to be like his dad and just like eat up a bunch of planets. Like Gamora and Nebula defied Thanos. Drax isn't a destroyer. He's a dad. Mantis left Ego. Yeah, Rocket is this hero now. Everyone except for Groot, who's still largely a mystery. Like we've got this series of characters who are like, you built me to destroy? No, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. And I like that Adam is just another one in the line of doing that. Or even down to like Cosmo, who's like, they sent me up here knowing I would die. Look, I'm still alive. I persist. I live. I have friends. I help people.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff with that. I say we get back to Rocket, since he is kind of the main plot of this stuff, his backstory with the High Evolutionary. So we get to know Rocket's backstory, something that he has not talked about, period. There's been allusions to it. We know that he was experimented on. He was ripped apart, put back together, ripped apart, put back together. But that's kind of it. That's all we've known. And at the start of this, we get the scene of all these little baby raccoons in this cage, and the High Evolutionary reaching in to grab one of them. And we know that that's how it starts. And then, we get this scene on Nowhere where Adam Warlock is sent to go pick up Rocket and bring him back to the High Evolutionary. That goes spectacularly wrong, but as a result, Rocket is hurt, and hurt in a way that Guardians can't do anything.
Yes, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and so they have to devise a plan to be like, okay, we need to figure out basically who and what and why Rocket is here, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that leads them to a company, which it's like OrthoCorp.
Orgocorp.
Orgo Corp. And man, that planet was disgusting and wild, and I loved it, and it was great.
Truly unique. We had Ego the Living Planet, but not like this. To have this entirely biological, like, flesh planet.
Fleshy,
real striking.
Pussy. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that whole set piece of Orgo Corp. I like the practicality of it. I love the colors. Like, there's something about this movie is so much visually darker than the other ones have been. Like, you think this is one of the reasons why number 2 is my favorite. It's so vivid. It's so colorful and saturated. And this one has got, they're spending more time in like ships, in structures, and less time just like on the surface of a planet than they were in the first 2 movies. And I think that lends the movie to darker color palettes, more shadows, you know.
Or even when they get to, I love the
way Orgo Corp looks.
Yeah. Even when you get to Counter Earth, it is like a bland version of Earth.
Yeah.
Like, it's not muted, but it's
really, overcast.
Yeah. Which is an interesting thing. But yeah, the Orgo Corp set really reminded me of something from like the Fifth Element. Especially in the bits where it is that like sleek, plasticky, white sci-fi stuff. Because there is also the like real dirty, grimy, lived-in sci-fi stuff. But man, yeah, that whole set was just it's just so imaginative and fun. That it's just neat to see on screen. It's like, this is a blockbuster movie. Like, this is one of the most like mainstream popular movies, and it's this. And this is awesome.
Where it's a flesh planet, and then you go inside, and it's like a 1970s color scheme office.
White and orange and yellow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that, TVA, right? Man. So yeah, the Guardians are looking for more information on Rocket. They know that he has this like device on his heart which stops them from operating or doing really anything to save him. And they have to find a specific piece of code to unlock it. And that leads them to the High Evolutionary. The whole time, Rocket in present day is basically just knocked out on this table. He's in this like he's not in a coma, I would say, but he's in rough shape here. And he keeps getting these flashbacks to his origin story of what was happening to him when he was in the High Evolutionary's custody. I don't really want to say care. But yeah, experimented on, put in cages. We get to see Lila, who I think has been mentioned in previous movies. But we haven't gotten to see her. And yeah, they are these like Sid from Toy Story creations of live animals and mechanical parts. I didn't even notice it at first, but it was the new Rockstars video that tipped me off that Teefs, the walrus, can't even blink on his own. Like, he has mechanical parts that like help him blink.
What is this for?
What? Yeah,
Herbert, why?
God. Yeah, like just these horrific creations, but you can just tell that they are just the most cutest, lovable like souls on the inside here, and you immediately just fall in love with them, which just makes it even more emotional because people don't like violence or cruelty against animals, which I don't want to say there's none of in this. There obviously is with all of these experiments, and you kind of see the aftermath, but you don't see the physical act of it on any of these animals, which I think was a good thing. But I think it's still very effective in not only making you care about them, but when they do die, right, you're just like, oh, my heart, like, oh no,
right. This The movie, okay, the main timeline we're in, less, I mean, emotionally effective, but in like a sweet, heartwarming, cathartic way. Not as sad as I was expecting. All the sadness packed into these flashbacks. The fact that the first word Rocket ever says is hurts.
Yeah.
What a choice. Ow.
God.
Ow, indeed.
It hurts my heart.
Do you remember the episode of Pokemon where Meowth flashes back and tells you why he can talk?
Vaguely. I know I've seen it, but it's been decades.
It's one of my favorites. I have watched it several times. Big Team Rocket fan over
also,
here.
I'm going to say, did that voice actor, did he retire or did he pass away? I heard something recently. I don't remember if it was just he's retiring because of throat cancer or passed away.
She died a while ago. Like, I don't know, like 10 plus years ago or something. I haven't kept up with
Meowth then, because this was something recent that they just stopped.
I don't know.
Or passed away. All right, continue, please.
But you see that like how and why Meowth like trained himself to talk. It isn't a case like this where like anybody experimented on him. He just saw humans talking and he's like, I want to do that. Why can I only say my own name as a Pokemon? Can I get past that? And he like trains himself to speak. And he's got like an alphabet book with like a little picture of something for every letter of the alphabet. And the first word he can clearly pronounce on his own is Rocket. And that's why he joins Team Rocket. Mm-hmm. So this took me like right back there. And I think this is another reason why I love these movies so much. I feel like Team Rocket was a primer for me really enjoying Rocket Raccoon and the rest of the Guardians. Just needed to share that this thing like really hit a memory of mine from when I was like 9 years old.
Interesting. Yeah, we do get to see Rocket as he kind of quickly grows up. There is a scene when he's sitting in the High Evolutionary's lap. They're reading a book, but then they get to look out like on Counter Earth and see the sky and the city skyline, and he's just like, wow, like this is beautiful. And he sees a rocket in the sky, and he's just like, what's that? And that is the thing that like captures his attention. He's inspired by, he's like, I want to be that. I want to do that. I want to go on that. And that is where he takes his name. He was like, when we get out of here and we go to Counter Earth, like we're not just going to be like P8538175389 or whatever it is. And he's like, we need to come up with names, and that's when you get Lila and Teefs, and I don't remember. Floor.
The little rabbit is laying on the floor, and it's like, I'll call myself Floor.
And then Rocket says, I want to be called Rocket. And just another emotional moment of just like, oh, that's how it, like he's inspired. He's looking to greener pastures. He's dreaming, and I don't think the High Evolutionary realized it yet, is the thing, and very soon finds out when he introduces Rocket to like what his experiments are and what he's hoping to do. Like he's hoping to populate Counter Earth with all of these creatures so that he can basically play God and all of that stuff, make this perfect society. And he's trying to rapidly evolve a number of different creatures to populate that planet.
Yeah.
But something is going wrong, and all of these creatures that he's evolving turn violent. And basically, immediately, Rocket is like, oh, well, you got the flux capacitor all wrong. The filter here, there, Bob. He just kind of instinctively knows this stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone is kind of shocked and taken back of just like, how did you know this? Like, this isn't something you're programmed to know. Like, we haven't programmed you with like invention yet, of like thinking like problem solving yet. You are just kind of a data bank of info, right? You're not making
Yeah.
connections, but you've made connections.
Yes.
And I think that is where the crux of this story begins, is that now the high evolutionary wants Rocket's brain to study and to like, what about him can I copy or manipulate to then put into these other species to help them also invent, to help them not be violent and problem solve and do all of the stuff. And as we learn, Rocket is escapes, and that's why he wants him back, because he's like, I still have never been able to crack this exactly. Like they've become docile, but that's just kind of it. Like,
which is
I don't know,
a really nice narrative mirror to like Ego's relationship with Peter. Like, I tried this thousands of times. I don't know why, but you're the one time it really worked. I need you.
Yeah.
Again, this series is so good at echoing itself in a really smart way. And also going back to
one real quick thing on that, like thematically repeating itself here. I have been going through the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon, and I've been listening to a podcast called A More Civilized Age, which I highly recommend. It is a great companion podcast, super smart criticism and stuff. And one of the things that they mention in that is George Lucas, when he was making some of these Star Wars movies, wanted things to what he called rhyme. Is that he wanted this like thematic echo, which is exactly what this is here. It is a rhyme scheme, so to speak, in the movie, which I love. It's fantastic.
But going back to volume 2, when Peter's fighting Ego and he has these flashbacks to all the things he's done with his friends that make him want to like break out of the magic and like fight back. It's like flashbacks of things we have seen, even if it's like sort of alternate footage, like him dancing with Gamora and like laughing with Drax and stuff. But then there's a shot of him just flying around with Rocket that we've never seen before. We have no context for. It's almost laughable that it's such a thing we have like it's such a non sequitur. And then you watch this movie where Rocket's like, I want to go flying with my friends. And you've got Peter repeatedly referring to him as he's my best friend. That contextualizes that one odd moment in a way you like never expected. Again, we don't know like when and why that was, but emotionally, that one little bit makes so much more sense now. I'm happy that we got to call back to that.
Absolutely. And eventually Rocket figures out they're never gonna make it to counter Earth. He's told as much. And then that's when he's like, we need to get out of here. You do see him like stealing a battery at one point, and they don't mention it.
Classic
you don't
Rocket.
Right. Yeah. You now know that like he's always also kind of had that instinct in him. He is kind of a klepto, right? Where he's just taking things constantly. But like, I think that I wonder if there's also like a deeper emotional meaning behind that. Like I wonder if Rocket saw this coming from like very early on. Like maybe never had it confirmed or anything like that. Maybe thought that he could, like, once he got to counter Earth, that would be his his chance to escape all of this, which is also maybe why he, is interested in like, that thing is flying. Like, how can I use that to get out of here? Right. But I like seeing him once he realizes that he's not, like, he's basically about to be killed. He's like, all right, let me make this key card. He just starts, he has all these little things like tucked away and hidden and stored away, which I guess is what raccoons do also too, right?
Sure. Little thieves, little robbers.
There you go. And he makes this like makeshift like this universal skeleton key for all of the locks on the High Evolutionary's ship, for all the locks of the cages of these animals. And that's when he tries to escape. He screws up the High Evolutionary's face, which is a big reveal down the road when the skin, they peel off his skin, making it literally a face off. That Peter always thought it was gonna. It's not a trap. It's a face off.
I did not realize that while watching the movie, because I just kept thinking about the movie Face Off.
Right. Same here.
I'm like, wait, I think that came out in like 97. I don't think Peter would have had a way to see Face Off.
Here, right? Like, is one of the High Evolutionaries like helpers like secretly someone else that like is it Sylvester Stallone gonna have some face thing and be like, hey, it's me. What do you think?
I've been John Travolta the entire time.
Right? Yeah.
I do want to say, just briefly going off of that Face Off moment, I like that this movie showed off more than the other ones. James Gunn started out as a horror director. You could see the bits of horror in here. I love whenever a movie is able to do that. We've been on a good streak of doing that lately. Like Multiverse of Madness was so gnarly. You've even got in Wakanda Forever those really eerie scenes where the Talokan army goes and like siren sings those people to just walk off the boat in the dead of night. We've got a nice quiet little streak of like horror threads in the MCU right now. I like it.
Indeed. And in all of that stuff, all of Rocket's friends get shot and killed. And it's heartbreaking. And yeah, he has to escape by himself without any of his friends. I don't think, maybe they explained it in the first movie and I don't remember, but we don't get to see really anything past that. So we don't really see how he met up with Groot or anything.
Still a mystery
like that. Yeah. But yeah, that is basically Rocket's backstory. And so him kind of returning to the High Evolutionary and being on the ship again, like he's not so triggered that he's like stuck and in this like emotional like feedback loop, but like it like he has, I think, enough separation and enough like support around him that he's able to go back in this ship with resolve. So there is this bit where Groot and Star-Lord go on the ship to confront the High Evolutionary to get Rocket back, and they get off the ship right as Nebula and Drax and Mantis are coming on the ship to save them. So it's this big switch. And this is when Nebula and Drax find all those kids at the bottom of the ship that they've been experimenting on, all that good stuff. And when they start saving the kids as the High Evolutionary ship is finally going down, they think they've saved everyone. They're like, all right, that's it. We've gotten everyone out. And this is when Rocket has his moment where he's in the hallway looking at like, this is the hallway that I had to run down. And like, he starts to have these flashbacks of like, this is where I ran. I was in the hangar. I did this, I did that. And yeah, he still has his key. He's kept it the entire time and starts opening up all the cages, starts helping all the little raccoons.
God, just so emotional to see that he truly is a North American raccoon.
Yeah, that
he's
too.
denied
he
it
opens
because he's never been sure.
Cage, and the name is right there. It has all the genus, species, all that good stuff.
And he tries to scoop all the baby raccoon kits up in his arms, and he like can't even hold them all, so they just scramble all over him, and he's just wearing all the raccoons.
Yes,
there's something so sweet in that image. Like, I'm going to wear all of you out of here.
Yeah. Especially with all the animal stuff, I knew that my partner was gonna be a mess the entire
Aw.
time, but that one is like the one that I could hear
Yeah.
her like when he
That's really
like, and
something.
he drops that one and he has
Ah!
to like pick it up. Like I could hear her just completely sobbing, and I was just like, oh, this is oh, oh. So yeah, but they save all the animals too, and there's a big stampede of all the animals. To like in the midst of this emotional stuff, though, there is that one scene where like the monkey jumps on the woman who's like trying to save everyone and just completely like destroys her face. Like what is happening?
Maybe
it's supposed to be a happy emotional moment.
Maybe that's what he was programmed to do. I don't know, but
just didn't like her face. I don't know.
Right. Last year we watched
not to look in their eyes, right?
You looked at the monkey. Nope, taught us all not to do that. Also, last year we watched RRR, which also has a big I let all the animals loose scene.
Yeah.
Again, I just think it's funny that in this period in cinema we can see these weird inexplicable patterns repeating itself.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means. It's just funny.
But yeah, so they save as much as the animals as they can. Rocket has a moment when he's fighting the High Evolutionary at the end there, when the High Evolutionary calls him by his number, and then he finally gets to say his name. He's like, I'm Rocket Raccoon, and starts shooting things. It's like, yeah,
get him.
It was good. Yeah, man, his whole story, all of the stuff of the Guardians moving on. I think this is just such an emotional gut punch, but it's also like I think despite all of the sadness and the trauma that's in this, I think there is kind of this undertone of joy in here. I think with the dancing at the end, I think with them saving all of the kids, I think with Drax basically becoming a father once again with this new incarnation of the Guardians. I think with Kraglin finally learning how to use the like whistle arrow thing, which is also just such a great scene when he like he feels helpless, and then we see him like imagining Yondu right there. He's like, use your heart, boy. And it's just, it's such a good moment. And it is this joyful when he finally starts to just whistle that thing around. Like there is a sense of joy that is in, like, he's not like, I did it, yes, but like you there is this like underswelling of emotion of just like, yes, he nailed it, right?
You know all these characters so well. You are so attached to them. This movie is so many like, yeah, get him type moments where you were rooting for like one specific character. I also love that him and Cosmo, like how they play off each other, how he like, instead of hitting the bad guy, he just hits like a stone wall and the stone cracks. And that's enough that Cosmo's like telekinesis can like grab it and just straight up sandwich that guy.
Yeah.
Just flat as a layer of peanut butter.
Indeed. Yeah, just like there is this joyfulness underneath it all, and I think that's kind of how the movie ends. Like on this sense of like, it's not sad, it's not a goodbye. It is this joyful like we've overcome these first main steps. We don't know what's next, but man, we did the thing, and it's just like this was great. This was so good.
Some more tiny little bits I want to mention before we talk about like the music of the thing. I have to talk about the music,
of course.
I love that on Nowhere you see Kraglin and Cosmo and Howard the Duck and all these characters like sitting around playing poker. Your dog's playing poker moment. I love that we see that guy, like the broker character from the first movie who ran that like curio shop on Xandar. I was so happy to see that guy again. Like, I think the series is really good at calling back things you want to see again that you didn't know you wanted to see again. I had no idea if that guy even lived past the end of that movie. He's not on a wish list, but boy, was I happy to see him. And one of my favorite jokes that isn't even really a joke is when they're breaking into Orgo Corp and you see Nathan Fillion in his weird like bug suit, like talking,
suit, yeah.
Right, talking shop with those other guards, and he mentions like he got some sort of a technical upgrade to a vehicle or a weapon. I don't even remember what it is, but he rattles off some numbers, and one of his coworkers is like, "Oh yeah, that thing's cool," and he's like, "That's not real. I just made that up." And the guy's like, "I thought you said something else."
But he's so sincere about it too. Like, well, right. in the moment, like he is just like, busted. I thought you said something else, but then
it's later when Nathan Fillion is talking, because I think they're like, oh, Drax is an idiot, you know. This is a boss's nephew. We got stuck with him on our team, and he's like, yeah, I got one of them too. And the guy says, I thought you said something else. Like, it's not that. It's when he says, there is a guy on my team I really like. This guy's great. This guy's cool. That guy like doesn't react to the compliments. The fact that guy just stands there and blinks, and like Nathan Fillion likes him so much, but why? What does he do?
Yeah.
Just the choice of that guy not reacting is very funny to me.
I liked that one a lot. I think another moment for me is when Mantis brings up Peter's granddad, that like, hey, there's a chance he might still be alive, and he's like, he'd be like 90, and she goes, right. So, and he's like, humans live to be like 50, and then she goes, oh my god, Peter, are you gonna die? And then without saying anything, Jarax is in the back just shaking his head like, yep, about to happen any day now.
Old Peter. Yeah. I do like that you still get these moments where you remember Peter has barely been around other humans since he was 8 years old. He's been around humanoid space creatures. Like, Kraglin's not from Earth. I don't know where he's from. He forgets how humanity works. He's like, adults die when they're 50.
Right. But how old is Peter, though?
I mean, he was born in like 1980.
So it isn't current MCU like slightly ahead of where we are? So he'd be like
true. Yeah,
40
he
something.
He's close to 50. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not far off. So Drax isn't wrong by Peter's standards, right?
Now,
he's just like, yep.
This movie sets up it. There's lines like that lead you to think this is going to come back later when that character dies. Like mentioning that Peter's like just so old he must be dead soon, and like the 2 times Peter refers to Rocket as his best friend and Drax mutters second best friend. I was expecting there's going to be a third beat of that where Drax dies and Peter's like, Drax, you are my best friend. Like, I like that the movie set these things up to give you an expectation and then defy it. Like, as we get towards the end of the movie, largely when most of the characters like hop off of the spaceship onto the giant floating head of nowhere that they're piloting around, like a big floating head, which is incredible. When everybody else is like hopped off there, you're like, okay, they're out of mortal peril now. And then Peter goes back for the Zune, which is so stupid, but so perfect. So absolutely in line with his character. They're just wordlessly, he's like, I gotta have my Zune. And he gets stuck out there and he's freezing to death. And you think, oh, is this the death that we're getting? But then as soon as his face balloons up, I'm like, okay, he's not dying like this. You would not kill off your protagonist with a big puffy face. You're too sincere for that.
I mean, you never know. It is James Gunn. Like, right?
These movies, there's lots of jokes in them, but I don't know if they're not irreverent overall. There is a lot of sincerity, a lot of heart to them. I'm like, I know this is not how you were going to take Peter out. I like throughout the movie just the sort of expectation of how the movie almost knowingly kind of prodding you into believing certain things are going to happen and then taking it away at the last moment. Like
Mhm.
setting up beat 1, beat 2, and then never giving you a beat 3 where you think there's going to be beat 3.
Mm. I gotcha. Yeah. Speaking of beats, though, Melissa, I know you really want to
Yes.
talk about the
Yes.
music and stuff, which is always a big part of the
Yeah.
Guardians movies. I know James Gunn likes to actually play some of the music like diegetically in the
Yeah.
scenes. It's not just something they put in post. So music, tell me about it.
I mentioned there was one song that I knew was going to be in this movie outside the
Mhm.
ones that played in the teasers, like Since You've Been Gone by Rainbow, In the Meantime by Space Hog. I think I did hear that Do You Realize by the Flaming Lips was played in like a D23 or Comic-Con exclusive trailer that never got leaked. The one I knew was that the movie was going to end with Come and Get Your Love by Redbone, just the way that the first movie in the main timeline, not counting the flashback to Earth, the way the first
Again,
movie
full
started,
circle. Yeah.
which I love. I think that's such a smart choice. And I love that it is Rocket that plays it. And like, we don't know if Rocket knows that was one of Peter's favorite songs specifically. Like, Rocket does not know that moment that all of us saw at the beginning of the first movie and echoed
Right.
again in Infinity War. But I think it's so smart that we keep seeing Rocket engage more with music the way Peter does. Like, he's putting songs on, he's kind of humming or singing along to them.
They're in that scene where he's looking out at the sky with the High Evolutionary.
Yes.
Is like, hey, I like the music that you're playing.
Yes.
Like he does have an affinity for music too.
Yeah. I like that comes through in this movie as this sign of you're the next leader. The leader must always be a big music head. Like that sort of continuity.
Leader will be bestowed
really like.
the sacred Zune.
Right, the sacred Zune. But we got a lot more songs in this movie than we usually do. I think due to the length of the movie's like 20 minutes longer than the previous movies are. Plus, like, you can fit more in a Zune than you can on just a mixtape. A mixtape is kind of limited to the 12 songs that the previous movies had on their soundtracks.
Sure, yeah.
I think the needle drops as a whole, we didn't have as many that like hit as hard and felt as like purposeful as they did in the previous movies, where it's definitely like, here is the scene, here is the song. The song's really going to stand out. This movie had more like things just playing in the background, just casually. But when the songs really hit, they hit hard.
Yeah.
One of the outstanding ones being the action scene set to No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
Great scene.
That's
great scene.
Such a highlight of the movie. This has got way more recent songs. Like, I knew based on the songs that were played in like the teasers that we were getting up through the 90s, but I didn't know for sure that we were getting up until the 2000s, which I guess makes sense. It includes songs from when Ozune existed.
Yeah.
But that was a surprise every time they played something recent. And Dog Days Are Over, I could not see coming, but I think it works so well in the finale. I like that they play like practically the whole song. Like, you see it in all these different contexts. Like, you see everybody dancing. You know, you see Peter going back to Earth set to this song. I think that's really lovely. But the one that really surprised me, I don't know if you know this song. It's a song that's playing like as Rocket is like piloting the ship into like the big final battle with the High Evolutionary. It's like the accordion song. It's This Is the Day by the. This is one of my favorite songs. This is Single Girl Though I Am. This is on my list of my future husband had better agree that we play this at our wedding. It's like that level of song that's important to me. And I mentioned to you on the captain's log that I was making my own like fantasy volume 3 playlist because I didn't let myself look up the actual one before I went to see the movie. I'm like, this is the last time I'm going to be able to be in the space where I'm guessing at what songs are going to be in the movie. This was on that list.
That's what I was hoping for. Like, I was interested in like, how much of this would you get right? Or like, can you get any song that you guessed on the actual thing? Which, yeah, I guess you did. You nailed it.
It was on there for a long time. I swapped it out for something. I swapped it out for an NXS song at the last moment. So I didn't get this 100% right, but it was like really high up there in my consideration. And then 2 songs I could put on my fantasy playlist were Superstar by the Carpenters and Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks. Just think about spaceships crashing into each other while Friends in Low Places plays.
Well, they do Scum and Villainy, right? I got Friends in Low Places.
And like those songs aren't in there, but those are artists that are mentioned in the post-credit scenes when the new Guardians are going around talking about musicians they like. Carpenters and Garth Brooks do come up. Yeah. So I had some hits. I guessed some of them. So
that's right. Not bad.
I was proud of myself. I'm really excited to listen to this whole soundtrack. Like I'm saving this for my work day tomorrow, coming back to the office after taking the day off, and then I have to catch up on a ton of emails. Like this is going to power me through. Mm-hmm. What did you feel about this soundtrack? Did anything stand out to you? Did you have any favorites?
I kind of agree with you that like there was a lot more in this that I think played in the background or just like encapsulated a scene, but nothing truly hit like the Come and Get Your Love or the like ooga chaka right, like I don't think anything hit in that same way. But yeah, I think that repeat of the movie ending on the Come and Get Your Love was just a fantastic note.
Yes,
it's so good. Because I mean, like you were talking about earlier, this idea of love kind of being the pervasive thing between all of these groups of people, however they decide to show it, is a theme that underlines the whole trilogy. So to have this song then kind of recontextualized at the end here with that of like, hey, come and get your love. It's right here, right? Like here is the family. We're starting a new team. Who wants to join? Like all of that good stuff. Is like a not recruitment song that makes it
it's an anthem like in some way.
It's an anthem. It's a theme song for the Guardians. That I think really works. So good stuff with that.
And I think it thematically makes sense that some of the music doesn't hit quite as hard because in those first 2 movies, Peter's got these mixtapes from his mom that are the last remnants of her, like some of the last remnants of his entire experience on Earth, and they are so deeply precious to him. And especially like the mixtape as a medium, we're just like record those songs off the radio, record them off of KC 95, real rock radio here in St. Louis. But with a Zune, it's like, this can fit like 500 songs. You just throw them on, throw them off. Like the more casual relationship with the music, I think at least does reflect the world's more casual relationship with the music and the changing of the technology and the medium. So there is like a purpose behind it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do look forward to like, and like I have listened to those first 2 Guardian soundtracks so much in the interim. So I wonder if that also makes those earlier songs feel so like sacred to me, like these huge monolithic things. And as I go on to listen to this soundtrack more and more, maybe it'll do the same for me, that the next times I watch the movie, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Always Chasing Rainbows by Alice Cooper, truly an iconic choice.
Yep, indeed. I mean, I had a blast with this. I think the pacing of the movie works really well. I kind of mentioned that I felt Adam Warlock was maybe the like extra thing that could have been cut out, but even then, like I don't think it was a bad choice to put him in there, or like that was a mistake, or like should have been. Like it all fit, it all worked well. I think you said this one was the longest of the 3.
But even so, it's like 2.5 hours, whereas the other ones were like 2 hours and a couple minutes each. You know, they're not long.
Like it doesn't feel like it is a 2.5 hour movie. It just keeps moving right along. And I think having those flashbacks kind of split up in between all of that stuff really makes for some nice pacing, these nice, constant beats. Yeah, I have nothing but great things to say about this. It was fantastic. I loved it. It's
Yes.
in a like I've with the recent Marvel stuff since Endgame, I've liked most of it, but I think
Mhm.
I've found a lot more issues with some of the things of like,
Mhm.
it was good. I see what they were going for, but maybe that third act didn't hold up, or like, I
Uh-huh.
like the ingredients, but the plot didn't make sense, or
Yeah.
this thing or that, right? It's kind of just such a good feeling to have a Marvel movie
Yes.
again that's just like, look, I know you can find things in here that probably are not a good choice, or who knows what, that you can
Mhm.
critique, but man, it was such a solid one that it's just
Yes.
like, this is so good, and it feels good to have that again. So I'm excited to see what James Gunn does with the DC
I
stuff down the road.
I do I think it's when they're on Counter Earth and you see Adam Warlock like flying across the streets. Looking at that absolutely made me believe like this is why this guy got hired to direct and not only write Superman. Like I think he's going to do a great Superman emotionally, like just the themes of
Yes.
family, like where you came from, how you honor or defy where you came from based on like what your needs are, like serving, like helping people, but being your own person. Specifically, the Midwestern connection.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
I
excited for a very Midwestern Superman movie.
The Midwestern connection. Uh, like I think even this trilogy of movies sets James Gunn up in a weird way to do a good Superman. I mean,
Mm,
we don't know what it'll be like in the end of the day, right? But like you said, so built on love and themes of family, and that is a big thing of Superman. But we know that his Superman story is also dealing with legacy and where you came from, and that's where this trilogy ended, right? It's this idea of like, hey, the Guardians are still here. There's a new version of the team. We just haven't gotten into all of that yet. And I think that maybe we'll go on to some other creator who wants to deal with them. Who knows?
mm,
But like, this almost feels like these stepping stones to James Gunn telling a story about legacy and knowing
yeah.
what kind of emotional stakes need to go into that, where the characters have been and where they need to have gone to make a story like that work. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see about all the JC stuff down
Mhm.
the road, but I thought this was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely fulfilling and absolutely uplifting. I am still amazed at the finale this movie was able to pull off with the weird gut punch of, "Oh my god, everybody lived. Everything's fine."
Yeah. Yeah, that was wild. I think the only other like Easter egg thing that I kind of want to mention is this young girl on the new
Yes.
Guardians team. She was one of the girls that was in the High Evolutionaries prison ship,
Job
right?
job.
Yeah, and I think she was credited. Was she credited as this? Do you know? I
I don't
um
I'm going to see it again.
Okay, I think the new Rockstars video said she was credited
Yes.
as this, and that's why we know it's this character. But her character is Phyla Vel, who is the daughter of Mar-Vell.
Mhm.
So which we've seen Mar-Vell in the Captain Marvel movie. She ends up, or Phyla Vel at one point does end up taking on the Captain Marvel name, but not
Mhm.
in not in a relation to Carol, but more to
Mhm.
Mar-Vell. But she ends
Yeah.
up becoming Quasar, who is also
Yeah.
a very well known member of the Guardians. Um, which I again, I don't know much about her. I don't know much about like Marvel cosmic stuff in general. But I think to me, what's interesting is it's Marvel's recent trend of including younger characters.
Yes.
Between Thor's daughter now that's in there. I think Kamala Khan is a little older. I know she's older in real life, but
these like preteen characters. Yes.
Yeah, I know even in some of the Marvel shows that has been on Disney Plus, we've kind of been speculating this like young Avengers team up as we've started to see some of these characters, even if they aren't like mentioned by name. It's like, you're this guy's son, which means you are this in the comics. Yes. So I don't know what's happening here, right? But I think that is, I think that is a way to kind of recoup, not recoup. I don't know if that's the right word, but just to kind of continue this cycle, this juggernaut that is the MCU, right? To keep it going, they need to bring new actors in, and they need to bring some fresh life. Like I think even the actor that plays Adam Warlock is young enough that we could see him for a long time. Like Rocket and Groot are CGI, so they can be in there for a long time, right? There's not like I like that trend. I think it is helping in the long run that they are more willing to include younger actors instead of being like, here's 3 people named Chris and they're all in their 30s or older, right?
And we've gotten so many possibilities that it's almost like we could have 2 sets of young Avengers. We've got like a 16 to 24, and then we've got like a younger set.
I mean, there is like a team in Marvel called the Champions, which are younger heroes. They're more akin to the Teen Titans, in my opinion. But like I could see even something like that, where there are new teams that are starting to form down the road, and maybe we haven't seen those connections be made yet. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So good movie, good stuff.
Good.
I had a blast.
5 out of 5.
Yeah. Do you have any other kind of last minute final stuff that you want to add on to this?
I don't think so. I'm probably going to see the movie again next weekend. We're going to go to St. Charles and go to a Dairy Queen, which echoes that scene in the second film. Also, that's what we did after we saw the first movie back in 2014. To a Dairy Queen. Jack and I arrange our movie-going experiences the way a film itself echoes its own themes and character journeys. We're like, we got to go to that restaurant again for continuity.
You need to buy some Magic Spoon cereal and listen to the sound.
I nearly did. I saw some at Target yesterday. If it wasn't $9 a box.
It's so expensive. But it's blessed by a wizard, so maybe worth it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, cool. I think that is our spoiler cast on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This was a great one. I'm excited to see what the MCU does down the road. Yeah. Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities.
There you go. If you guys want to find me, I'm at YoKyleSpringer on Twitter. And if you would like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at The Whatnots, we are at The Whatnots on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. You guys know the deal with all of that. If you're watching this on YouTube, we got a bunch more videos for you to check out. Some are right over there on that side of the screen. That would help us out a ton. But yeah, this has been number 115, The Whatnots Reactor Core. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.